So we have a viewer from Long Prairie who wants to know what's going on with tax conformity, if anything. Who wants to talk about that? Anybody want to take a run? We'll take a look at take a run at that.
Well, hate to preface it by saying I'm not on the tax committee, so I'm not hearing the bills, but I'm not, so I'm not as close to it. I'm hopeful that they're going to do something. In the line of business I'm in, I talk to a lot of people that are either doing taxes or are in need of them, and this has really caused a problem, the nonconformity. And I'm not sure. I've talked to accountants that say it would be nice to have us do something retroactively. I've talked to others that say, look, it's just going to be such a problem, because what people don't realize is that the accounting firms have to get the software to do the taxes. Right. So the software has to be developed, and the software is developed as a result of what revenue tells them is going to be on the tax form. And as I understand it, a lot of times...
You can't develop the software unless you know what the law is.
And a lot of times they're getting this software update toward the end of December, the first part of January, from what I understand. So that's one of the issues that's going to have to be faced is how is this going to be integrated into the system? Are people going to have to go back and file an amended return if we do something now? And again, I'd like to be close to that action, because that's one of the things, obviously, that's one of my areas of interest, but I'm not sure what the debate is going on. I'm not sure if somebody else on tax committee there.
I don't see how it can be done for 2018. Like you said, they've got to get the forms prepared and out to everyone by the end of the year, and they weren't able to do that because we didn't pass the law last year. I think part of the difficulty is what I'm hearing is that if we actually did conform, it would actually mean tax increases for most people. And so, we're reluctant to do that for good reasons. And so you have to also build in some kind of way to mitigate that tax increase. And I think that just hasn't been figured out.
And that was one of the difficulties last year, was trying to keep it neutral.
Right.
Because there's so many nuances when you go into the tax code that you want to keep it neutral. It was just a horrendous feat.
And one of the big issues last year, which we did take care of last year, was prior to this, the change they made. If you filed the standard form with the federal, you had to do the same thing with the state. Well, we decoupled that last year, and so that you can file itemized deduction now with the state, and it's on the old tax system, so we know what that tax system is. And our tax chair, Paul Marquardt, talked about right now it's too late to do it. The 28th of January is when filing started, so it's kind of too late to change all the forms. So they're working on that, and that's, like you said, how to do this so we don't give everybody a huge tax increase, how we do this so that it can go through and do it simple, and that's what the tax committee will be doing this year. I also don't serve on taxes this year, but like I said, our tax chair talked to our caucus about it, and basically said the forms are there, the IRS or the Minnesota Revenue has the forms for this year, and it's been a little more complicated because it's different than the federal government, where we're used to doing the federal forms and then just taking that number and putting it on our state forms, and then the state form is easy to fill out. It's going to be a little more complicated for people this year, but because they decouple it, people should be able to do what's best for them on the state and do what's best for them on the federal.
So just a brief follow-up question on the tax issue. We have a question from a viewer, and I'm going to condense and translate this a little bit, but this viewer says, I choose not to pay the $20 filing fee to file electronically, but I wonder how much the state is really saving that way, and maybe the state should encourage electronic filing by waiving that fee or otherwise covering it with state funds. Has there been any discussion about that?
I have not heard anything.
I didn't know there was a $20 fine.
I didn't either.
Well, and
talk to my tax guy about that.
This is what the question says.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. I guess I didn't know that. My tax guy hasn't told me that. I probably paid it. But with the electronic filing, it goes right into the system and it goes into the computer. Someone doesn't have to transcribe it in, so I think that saves the state money. So that might not be a bad idea to waive the fee.
Well, they probably had to upgrade all the computers, though, and so it's probably a way of paying for all that upgrade.
All I'll say about your tax guy is the same thing I say about my tax guy. I did my taxes my first couple of years as a tax-paying citizen, and we were filing amended returns to fix all my mistakes. So I don't do that anymore. I have somebody else who takes care of that.
The funny thing there is my brother-in-law is a CPA, and my sister, his wife, is the one that did their taxes.
So there you go. There you go.